Hi guys, I'm Kat from Kat's Kinder Kids, and I wanted to dive into my student teaching experience and kind of take you guys on the journey that led me to this beautiful, awesome school that I get to be at now. So stay tuned. Okay, so I want to tell you guys kind of how the journey started. I went to Illinois State in Illinois, and I did a program called PDS. And to be honest, I don't even remember what the acronym is anymore. You know, everyone in our education field loves our acronyms. And the reason I went on that journey was because I felt like it would get me further and be able to show people in the job market that I was trying my hardest to get a job. And so instead of doing a typical student teaching experience, I did a year-long internship. So I had to do letters of recommendation, and I had to have a certain GPA, and it helped that I was a TA with one of the professors that was running the program, and so he was able to kind of walk me through the steps. And then I did the paperwork and found out I was selected for this program. And there was one cohort that was able to stay at the university, and you taught with people that were in the area. I chose to go to a cohort that was closer to my hometown so that I could live at my parents' house. So I had about a 45-minute drive, and then and that was on a good day. Normally it was about an hour, and on Fridays, I remember one particular Friday, I was in the car for 2.5 hours trying to get home. And this is so silly, and I don't know why this stuck with me, but there was a woman in front of me, and we were stuck at a light, and we had been sitting there for like 20 minutes. And then she not only let in one car, and it wasn't a car, it was a truck. It was like an 18-wheeler truck. She let in 2 18-wheeler trucks, and we missed the light like 4 more times because of it. And I was so frustrated. I literally thought I was gonna get out of the car and just like lose it. So the Fridays were always really frustrating. One thing else I did for my student teaching, and I know they always tell you you shouldn't be working when you student teach, but that was the option that I had. If I wanted money, I needed to work. So I did work at an express store that was close to my site. So some days, even on like a Friday, I would go from my classroom, drive to Express, and then work like a 6-hour shift, and then go to my girlfriend's house that lived nearby, so I didn't have to drive that hour back home. And then I would sleep there for a couple of hours, and then I would wake up, go open up the store, work 2 shifts, and then drive back to my parents' house, sleep on a Saturday night, and then I would go back to Express, work the morning shift, drive back to my parents' house, and then I had Sunday evening to prep for my classroom for the next week, and then go to sleep, and I'd wake up and then drive back to my classroom. So that was typically my schedule for my whole experience. What made this program a little bit different was that I was given a classroom for the entire year, and so we took it over pretty quickly. And it was nice because we had a master teacher that was there if we needed her, but I was really great. I had the most wonderful master teacher, and she let basically me take over after like 2 weeks of observations and just kind of getting in the groove of things. And then she would just disappear, and she would go help our librarian, or she would go do stuff in the office. And if I ever needed her, she was there. But I basically got run of my classroom for a whole year, and I think that experience is perfect, and everyone should have the opportunity. You can sink or swim, and if you start to sink, there's always someone there that can help you. The demographic that I was teaching for my student teaching experience was very, very high poverty. It was a Title I school, and it was rough, and I did not grow up in an area that was like that. I was very fortunate that I had parents that were able to put me in a beautiful school district, and we never wanted for anything. And so having to teach kids who don't know where their next meal is coming from and don't know what they're gonna find when they get home was a very eye-opening experience. And I feel like, again, everyone I wish could have the experience that I had, because it really opened my eyes. And I mean, every single day we had breakfast in the classroom, and then I would hold on to the extra food because we would pack the kids' backpacks with food before they'd go home, because not all of our kids had food at home. Sometimes they only ate breakfast and lunch, and that was because they were in the classroom. So that was a really big aha moment that I need to get out of my bubble, and I these kids need your love. So that was a really great experience. Something that I definitely think was difficult was behavior, because it wasn't my classroom and I had control over it, but I didn't necessarily agree with how my master teacher would run her behavior programs and her protocol. And that was one thing that she was super strict on, was that we're not changing the behavior program. And we had kids at age of 5th graders, I think, are like 12 or 13, I can't remember. But at a 5th grade level, we had kids who were pregnant. We had kids who were fist fighting after school. We had kids that would steal, and having DCFS come and do interviews with us, and have to like lock up, like my purse couldn't be out, and just things like that was just, that was really rough. And I had a student who stole some things, and that was like a big, oh my goodness, like that, it's crazy, and I've never experienced anything like that. So that was pretty interesting. I had some moments with behaviors that I just didn't know what I was doing, and I would go home and just cry. And I want to say I cried a couple times every single week during my student teaching experience, because I didn't know what I was doing. I felt like I was way in over my head, and I was shocked by some of the behaviors, and anything I did just didn't faze them, and I didn't have the power to change a lot of it. One big aha moment for me though was a kiddo who needed some help and had some cries of help, and the parents just, oh, excuse me, that's so weird. A student who just had some cries of help, and the parents just didn't care, and that was one thing that was hard for me. I didn't understand why parents didn't care. Why don't you care? Why can't I get you to care about your kid? And just something major had happened, and I went to my principal at the time and I said, this is what's happening. I cannot get the parents to come in and talk to me about it. What do I do? And she said, what are you doing right now? And well, it's my prep time. She said, how much time do you have? And I said, well, I have about an hour and 10 minutes left in my prep for the week. And she said, okay, get in the car. And I was like, what? She goes, we're gonna go do a home visit. And I was like, we can do that. And she said, we need to make sure this child is okay. We need the parents to understand the severity. And if they're not gonna come to us, we'll go to them. And she literally put me in her car, and we drove to the parents' house, and we sat down and had a conversation, and it was very honest. And that was just like a mind-blowing moment for me. It was crazy. So that was really nice to see that you had that control and to help a kid like that. So that's the first time and only time I've ever driven to a parent's house for poor behavior, and I hope I would never have to do anything like that again. But that was a really crazy moment in my student teaching experience. So one moment that it's like ingrained in my brain and I'll never be able to forget it. I was doing a lesson on writing, and I can't remember the program or anything, but the lesson book said you need to refer different types of writing to different types of shoes, and sometimes you wear rain boots and sometimes you wear cleats, and each shoe has a purpose for a certain context. So you wouldn't wear high heels on a soccer field and things like that, and revert it back to your writing. So I was in the middle of this lesson. I had like a gym bag, and I'm talking about shoes, and I'm pulling out a rain boot, and I'm pulling out an UGG boot, and then I'm pulling out a gym shoe, and then I pull out a high heel, and I was asking a different purpose of the shoes and different situation you would need those, and I pulled out the high heel, and I had a fifth grader say, oh, well, that's for when you go to the hotel. And I didn't quite know if he was taking it where I thought he was taking it. And then I saw my master teacher, who was like in the classroom in the back corner, like stop what she was doing and like figure out where the situation was going. And I was like, where is this situation going? And I prompted him a little bit more, and I shouldn't have done it in front of the whole class, but I was interested to see if this was going in like the hooker hotel way that I thought it was going to. And then he flat out said, well, those are like my mom's shoes. They're hooker shoes. You wear those when you go to the nice kinds of hotels. And I literally was like, what world am I in? Because that never would have crossed my mind. And like all the kids were like, well, yeah. And it just like blew my mind. And that moment has like stuck with me forever, that a 5th grader is referring to high-heeled shoes as hooker shoes because his mom is in that profession. And I was just like, this is a whole nother demographic and situation that I never would have expected myself to be in. And I don't know why that stuck in my head. But I have another memory of student teaching where I was super blessed to go to a job fair at my college. It was on like a Labor Day or something where we had a Monday off. And so everyone went back to the university to do a job fair for teachers. And it was school districts all over the place. And one of them was in Southern California, and he was my boyfriend at the time. Now he's my husband. Knew that he was going to be in an area, and it was kind of, we had been off and on and long distance, and if we were going to go anywhere, we needed to be in the same state for once. And so I'm like, well, I'll just go talk to these people. And it had been a really great conversation, and we had exchanged contact information. And then I remember being back in my classroom after school one day during student teaching, and I'm getting ready for the day's lesson for tomorrow. And I had gotten a phone call from that district, and they had asked if I would be willing to come down and meet with them. And it worked out perfectly because when they wanted to meet was during our spring break. So I didn't have to take any days off. I was given 2 days for the entire school year to use as sick days or personal days or whatever I needed. And I ended up using those 2 days, getting whooping cough, which is like a whole nother story I'll get into in a second. But so I didn't have any days to use, so it worked out so I could go for spring break. And I was actually given a contract in March of my student teaching year, which is wonderful. I didn't end up going with that school district. I went with who I'm with right now, who I couldn't imagine a better place to be with. But that was really one moment. I remember being in my teacher's chair doing lessons and getting a call from a school district halfway across the country that wants me. And that was like okay, this moment, this is why I put so much hard work into it, because I have school districts looking for me. I'm going to go back to that whooping cough moment because I totally forgot about that when I was typing up what I wanted to say to you guys. And I never knew this, but did you know that your boosters, when you get all your vaccines, eventually wear off? And normally you don't ever have to renew your vaccines because everyone else is vaccinated. And so it evens out with the population well, because that's your own belief, but because some people are not getting vaccinated anymore, and the demographic of people that I was working with were not getting vaccinated because they didn't go to doctors and they didn't have insurance and things like that, I was susceptible to getting all those things that I had gotten all my vaccines for. And so I actually got whooping cough from one of my kids, and I cannot explain to you the pain that I felt for that. And I literally had 2 days. So it took a long time for me to even decide to go to the doctor. I don't like going to doctors. I don't like any of that stuff. So I finally gave in, went to the doctor after one of my days, and I was able to get like a 4 o'clock appointment. And it took me an hour to get there. I get to the appointment, and he's like talking about my symptoms, and I had no voice. I could not speak. And the kids, they actually had good behavior for like those couple of weeks because they could not understand me. I could not speak loud enough for anyone to hear me, but I had no voice and I wasn't sleeping. It was miserable. So they finally did tests. They figured out that I had got whooping cough from one of my kids, and I had to stay out of the classroom for a certain amount of time. So it worked out that it was actually a long weekend, and then I had my 2 days, and then all my antibiotics and that stuff kicked in. So I was allowed to go back into the classroom without missing any more days and getting in trouble with my university or with admin or anybody. And then I had to continue teaching, going through all my medicine, and that is just like a horrible, horrible experience. So I actually, when I was typing all this, I forgot that those couple of months for my student teaching when I was sick was just, it was miserable. And during one of those times is when I had to do my Ed TPA, and I don't know if all states do that now, but Illinois had just introduced their Ed TPA, and you have to like film a week's worth of lessons, and I'm in the video like reviewing my lessons, typing up all these things for this program I have to send all my stuff to, and you literally like cannot hear my voice, and it's painful to try to watch those videos. I should try to find one of those and put those in here. But yeah, my student teaching experience, I just remember it was hard, but it gets better, and that's like a big thing. It gets better. During my student teaching experience, I had a cohort of girls that we all cared for one another, and we were there for one another, and on Thursdays we'd go out and have a beer and just decompress from the week's worth of craziness, because we were still doing a couple of classes while we were student teaching, even though we were in the classroom every day. So I mean, it was a lot of work, but it was really well worth it. And during my student teaching experience is when I found out that I was getting my full-time job, and it was during my student teaching experience that I decided to move to California to be with my husband, and it was just very good moments, but very, very low moments. And the perfect thing to think about is that it gets better, and that you're doing it for a reason, and you're doing it for the kids who need you, and you're doing it for the kids that love you and who need love. So yeah, that was my student teaching experience, and I'd love you guys to put your videos down below, link them so I can go watch your student teaching experience videos. Alright guys, well I'm going to see you next time. Please like, comment, and subscribe so I can get more videos to you guys. Alright, bye friends.